Imagine
A podcast.
where time drifts slowly,
A podcast.
where
Isaac.
carries you away.
So let me be clear. We tortured some folks.
If you don't like what we tell you to believe in, we'll kill you.
Hey, hi, hello, it's Isaac. You're listening to Coexist Inc. I attended a protest today in my hometown of Sarasota. Yoav Gallant, war criminal and former Minister of Defense, was giving a talk today at the Jewish Federation, which used to be the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, where I attended summer basketball camps. It's also right across the street from Temple Emmanuel, the place where I attended preschool. I can't begin to tell you how insulting it is that this man can just waltz into my town and be free. He just gets to, I'm sure he had a nice dinner. I'm sure he flew business class here. There were a little over 100 of us on either side of the entrance to the Jewish Federation building, holding signs, chanting. There was a doctor there, Dia Daoud, and he had just returned from being detained in Israel after being a part of the Freedom Flotilla. He also was an emergency doctor in Gaza in 2024. And it was actually really, I find the chanting unpleasant in a lot of protests, but having him speak and tell his story to the 100 of us in the cars that were passing was very encouraging. And he was very encouraging. I mean, here was a man who has seen the most unimaginable horrors, just like dead kids every day, and just cruelty beyond understanding, inhuman cruelty. And there he was, and he was in such good spirits. It was inspiring. I don't know him. I love him. I'm gonna try and get him to be on the show to tell his story. But even though there were 100 of us, which was a pretty good turnout for conservative Sarasota, there should be more. There should have been 10 times more. Yoav Gallant and these war criminals who are wanted by the ICC should not be welcomed with open arms anywhere they go. They should be uncomfortable. They should be looking over their shoulders. I'm not saying do anything violent, don't turn them into martyrs. I'm saying that for self-preservation reasons as well. But I think that just as these cars drove into the parking lot, they mostly averted their eyes. They were cowards. They wouldn't look at us. There were some psychos who were, driving by and, flicking us off and saying, fuck Palestine, and just, cool, I guess. But the amount of people who were driving in there who I think were surprised, were caught off guard that we were there, first of all, but who also wouldn't look at us. And the only way they would ever look at us was through their phone. They'd have to put their phone as some sort of interface between us, recording us, I guess, for posterity. I'm not so sure, to post it on their Facebook. I don't know. So I've got Palestine on my mind, obviously. There is a ceasefire, right? Supposedly, even though Israel continues to kill civilians indiscriminately, or very discriminately, actually, very purposefully. I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe that the ceasefire is real. Anyone who's been given hope from it, I don't want to discourage them, but I don't trust Israel. Of course not. I don't trust the United States. I don't trust Donald Trump. So why would I think this would be any different? I don't. But there's a possibility, and there is much to believe in and much to hope, and so I don't want to be too discouraging about it. But the fact that Tony Blair might be the viceroy of the Gaza Riviera run by Trump's Bitcoin operation and Larry Ellison of Oracle and Peter Thiel, that bums me out, man. I'm not too happy about that. I've already heard Trump is beginning to turn on Tony Blair. Maybe the sheen of his posh English accent is wearing off for Trump, as it should wear off for all of you too. If any of you still swoon over an English accent, I must dispel you of this. The English are terrible, and they're not smarter than you, an American, just because they have a fancy accent. And in order to do this, and this is a show I've been wanting to do for a while, to talk about how awful the British are, how terrible England is, I am joined by the inimitable Eyup Lovely. Eyup Lovely. Northern English accents are cool, though. I'm cool with that. And that's who Eyup is. He's a northerner. He's not from the south. And he makes that distinction very clear in this episode. And it's a two-parter. So let me lay it out for you real quick. We talked for over 3 hours. And it is one of the more emotional episodes I've ever recorded. It was very difficult at times. It gets very sad. And so I decided to split the show up because I wanted Eyup to come on to talk about how evil Tony Blair is. And he does do that. He makes the case that Tony Blair is like as bad or worse than Hitler. And I'll let him make that case. I won't make that. But we talk about Gaza for a significant chunk of time, as well as talk about the dark heart of England and how awful England is for everyone, including the people who are in it. That there are children in the north in these deindustrialized towns who are eating out of garbage cans. I mean, I think when you imagine England, you don't think of third world level poverty, but that is absolutely what they're experiencing because of the severe post-Thatcher austerity that has ravaged this country for decades. So I split the episodes up. There's 2 parts. And I thought about paywalling the part where it's very emotional because that's for the true fans. It's not an easy listen. But I realized that would have been ridiculous of me to not talk about Gaza, not make Gaza for everyone to hear. And Eyup has some really important things to tell you about how you're supposed to live in this world with all of these horrors around us. And so instead, that's the one for the public. The Palestine episode is for the public. And the funnier, sillier stuff, that will be behind the paywall. And I would appreciate if you were a member there. But if you're not, and I in this episode, I will, in the bio, I'll be giving places to give money to Gaza. That's one of the things Eyup says explicitly is just give. Like, don't worry, just give. And so please, if you have anything to spare, even if it's just like $5, $10, it does make a difference. And I think one of the things I realized from the doctor who I heard speak today, that we even showed up, that even though it was 100 of us, that people showed up and care, is a big fucking deal. And don't paralyze yourself thinking that you can't make a difference or that it's meaningless, because it's not. And I think a show of solidarity to these people who you don't know, but they see you, they see what you do, they're online, makes a big difference, I think. So yeah, if you want to listen to the fun episode where we talk shit about like the people from London and Keir Starmer, and we even do a review of One Battle After Another, and have a little bit less serious of a time, that's behind the paywall. This one will be about Gaza.
Living a lie. I've never seen a man so compromised. Evil and cold, a puppet doing what he's told. Put it like this: if ever I could make
What else do Americans misconceive of in regards to England?
Intelligence. I think there are 3 universities that breed all of the output for media, broadcasting, television, entertainment. I mean, every fucking comedian, entertainer comes from Cambridge, specifically the group Footlights at Cambridge. MI6 are all over that, quite obviously. Sacha Baron Cohen, fucking Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, Steve Fry, Laurie.
Who was also schoolmates with Tony Blair. Tony Blair was a Cambridge boy. I think they're in the same class as Rowan Atkinson.
Well, such is upper society British living. At these elite boarding schools, there is a practice called fagging. Yes, fagging, where the junior partner of a coalition, shall we call it, has to wake up the senior for school. And Louis Theroux was Nick Clegg's fag. The documentarian Louis Theroux had to wake up Nick Clegg, former Deputy Prime Minister, former fucking Vice President of Facebook, until they installed Dana White in his place. Had to be woken up every morning by Louis Theroux. They are the only cultural export that we have, because there are no avenues otherwise. Maybe Stephen Graham is an example of a working class, non-toff export. And he is sort of an idiot savant. And I mean that in the least offensive way possible. Stephen Graham is a fantastic actor. He can do any part, any role, any accent, and he nails it every single time. But he's also dyslexic. His wife reads the scripts to him, decides for him. And that is a consequence, doubtless exacerbated by his dog shit education in his dog shit upbringing in dog shit non-London England. Realistically, we should balkanise England because it makes no sense as a singular entity.
But it's so small. It's already so small. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's so crazy to me that.
And the distance, of course, is trivial. But like a train ticket from, like a first class train ticket from where I am to London. Let's see how many miles that is, and let's see how much it costs. Bradford to London train ticket, first class. Let's go buy a first class train ticket from Bradford to London, and it's well over £100, 150. These are not even for fucking first class. For a 2-hour journey, 170 miles. And that's the part that baffles the Americans, is that how can a country be so broken that traveling 150 miles costs you $400?
I mean, not that anyone takes Amtrak in this country, but those are Amtrak prices. Amtrak is considerably more expensive than air flight here. It's obscene, and it sucks too.
We used to have all of this nationalized, and it used to be extremely cheap, if not free, and then birthed a demon called Lady Baroness Thatcher, who said her greatest legacy was Tony Blair.
Really? Well, that's a great transition, because I wanted to have you on particularly, to talk about Tony Blair, the new viceroy of the Gaza Riviera, the Dubaiification of the most bloody genocided land in memory. I want to know who this man is, because I've it's been a long time since I've had to think about Tony Blair. He was a fixture 20 years ago to me, and now I didn't even know he was still alive, honestly.
Tony Blair, to be clear, is the most evil man who has ever lived. His son has some fake AI apprenticeship company, rather. His son has some fake AI apprenticeship company that was at one point valued in the billions. So his family is mint. Yeah, I believe you could make a sincere and earnest case that Tony Blair is more evil than Hitler. And I'm not making that case, but you could make that case and you would be right. Tony Blair, he is... So, in Britain, we had Margaret Thatcher for 3 consecutive terms. And Margaret Thatcher, disparate to common belief, was not just popular with the old fogies and the pedos. She was also popular with the youth, because she had successfully sold an entire nation on the idea that no, sometimes the doctor needs to give you the right dose of medicine. Sometimes there needs to be this paternalistic relationship between the state, and you need to be told what your limits are, and would later grow into the idea of there's no magic money tree, things like that, these political slogans. And we had Thatcher for 3... she won 3 elections, I believe. But she resigned. It is sort of political folklore that, and I believe they did a Doctor Who episode based on that piece of folklore. That she resigned after a journalist said, "Doesn't she look tired?" Because she was the Iron Lady. The Iron Lady. This lady is not for turning. You know, she was the unshakable. She was very much a titanic political figure. So to recalibrate after she resigned, her close colleague, John Major, took over. There was some sex scandal. I believe he got pegged by his assistant or something.
Are the English the most like perverted people on earth, by the way? Just a little side note.
Yeah. You get this intermittently. We're about to have another. We have these phases where the press suddenly start remembering that they know all of these things. Oh, shit, yeah. I just remembered that half of Parliament are paedophiles.
What is it about the English soul, the English genetics that makes them they have such proclivities for
the schools element? I think that is very class-based as well. Have you seen The History Boys?
Mm-mm.
History Boys is a play and a film by Alan Bennett, who is up north. He talks like me. He's a gay playwright, and it sort of portrays it almost positively, almost as part of pedagogy, as
pedagogy.
Yeah, like the you know how in ancient fucking Rome or Greek they would. Mm-hmm. Pederasts they were like tutoring them at the same time. They were rearing them, I suppose. That is sort of a unspoken belief of a lot of people in these elite schools. Those types of relationships of pedagogy, of intimate pedagogy, shall we say, of the extremes on both ends. You know, the carrot and the stick rears the finer student, and it's all about the academia. You know, in actuality, they are just mass molesting children. Of course, the same kinds of things happen up here. It's just in different ways. You will have noticed, before we get to Blair, I suppose we should very quickly touch on this. Elon Musk, briefly, through a conduit, Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's chief advisor, heard they run in the same circles as Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel had got Elon Musk onto the idea of these grooming gangs. The grooming gang scandal is perhaps the most misunderstood thing in the history of this fucking country by its own populace. Yes, of course, men who are Pakistani origin, Bangladeshi origin, have committed sex crimes in Britain, were involved in some of those sex crimes. But a lot of these victims were describing being trafficked to white men by Asian or South Asian taxi drivers, to white businessmen, to Americans sometimes, and threatened by the police. I'll tell your audience, go watch Red Riding. It's all true. But as for Tony Blair, Sir Tony Blair, I'll have you know, after the 3 successive defeats of the Labour Party, they had to rebrand and they brought in the ad men. They literally employed the Don Drapers. People who made the adverts for supermarkets and fucking bread, Marmite and yogurts and sandwiches. And they decided, here's what we're going to do. We're going to select a vessel as the next leader. And then miraculously, the current leader of the Labour Party, who was 25 points ahead at the time of his death, thereby his successor inheriting a 25-point lead already by default. John Smith, a moderate, not a Blair type, has a shock heart attack and dies, and the natural successor was always seen to be Gordon Brown.
Was that suspicious, by the way, that his shock heart attack?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. There are a lot of funny little heart attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more suspicious of Robin Cook's heart attack.
I'm not familiar with that.
Robin Cook he came out against the Iraq War while in the Blair cabinet, and then one day, there's a fiddle, and the next, you know? And all it takes is a little bit of cyanotoxin, a little bit of shellfish toxin, a little bit of fucking... All I'm saying, he gave a passionate and damaging speech to the case for the Iraq War that affected transatlantic groups, wield and yield a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
And when the time had come for a leadership election, it was always assumed that it was to be the term of Gordon Brown, who was this impassioned, good orator, cared about the detail of things, very meticulous, actually had an earnest care about things, at one point anyway. And then Peter Mandelson playing them both against each other.
Mr. Epstein, Peter.
Yes.
Yes, Peter Mandelson.
At that time, oh boy.
Dude, I don't know.
At that time, he had a mustache, but that was not what I was going to say. Peter Mandelson is perfectly placed in the Labour Party, geographically in the country, and fits the profile exactly of something reported in the mainstream press of a man who had been a senior Blair Labour figure who was helping paedophiles to adopt children, who was grooming and having sex with children, who was trafficking children to politicians. And a lot of this happens through child care homes. You will see my earlier point about austerity. Austerity often leans onto public services. Public services decline, and the decline is often in the place of safeguarding. So it is a Ouroboros of sorts in that way. Blair is installed through the machinations of what he is dubbed the Prince of Darkness, Peter Mandelson, because he is one of the many men running around in the dark around Tony Blair. And he knew a lot of ad men. I don't know if he was an ad man himself at any point, but at least he knew they needed a rebrand. They rebranded to literally New Labour. And because...
That's some great advertising right there, by the way. Just putting new in front of these geniuses.
I mean, it didn't work for fucking New Coke, did it? But because they had inherited a 25-point fucking lead, they were going to win anyway. So now but the history has to be told, and it is told, that this genius remarketing of the Labour Party had reinvigorated this old, spluttering socialist 1970s old guard tweed hat fucking miners union crap into Apple, into an iPod, into Coca-Cola, into something new, hip, modern. Tony Blair had previously had careers, or at least tried his hand at stand-up comedy. He was in a band. He wanted to be an entertainer for a long time. You can see this. Peter Morgan, who wrote The Crown and The Deal, which I think is a fantastic television film about the deal made between Gordon Brown and Tony Blair, where Gordon Brown gets fucked. I think he gets it very well in that Tony Blair, he loved to play the role of Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
He was never interested in the doing anything, hence completely yielding the entire foreign policy of the country to the United States, much like his latest successor, Keir Starmer. Blair obviously was key, instrumental in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. They don't happen without him.
Mm-hmm.
Because the rest of Europe told you to fuck off. Or at least most of them. I think Denmark sent some people.
The coalition of the willing, right?
Kill the fucking Iraqis, man. Fuck off, fucking Danny prick. He was just utterly instrumental in that. And he was portrayed in the British media as the lapdog of Bush. I think it is possibly a mistranscription, but there is a clip of the G8 or G20 or whatever, where Bush says, "You're Blair," and that was played on repeat endlessly as if to show, like he's treating him like a child. Because Tony Blair's youthfulness was always noted in his election
I guess
campaign.
youthful by British standards. He didn't. He
was in
he
his
didn't look
40s.
too good to me. The other thing that I want to bring up though is that I didn't know that it was Tony Blair who propagated the elegant pearls myth that was part of us getting into the war in Iraq. You familiar with that?
Yes.
From the movie The Rock.
Really elegant string of pearls configuration. Unfortunately, incredibly unstable.
What exactly does this stuff do?
If the rocket renders it aerosol, it can take out the entire city of people.
Really? And what happens if you drop one?
Happily, it'll just wipe out you and me.
Yes, that was Alistair Campbell, I believe, who took it from the Wikipedia page. I think was the verbatim wording from the Wikipedia page of the film.
It's so lazy. They're so lazy.
It's called the Dirty Dossier here, because Alistair Campbell, who by all accounts should be in prison, all of these people should be in prison. Alistair Campbell is Alistair Campbell, Jonathan Powell, and Peter Mandelson are the three people in the dark, in the shadows, behind Tony Blair the whole time. Alistair Campbell is from, or was born, in Bradford, up north, straight talking. He is depicted as, a little bit more suspicious of all the pomp and more, cynical, I guess. Peter Mandelson has always been a very connected individual. And Powell has always been a transatlanticist. It wouldn't surprise me to see Powell chair of like Le Cirque one day, or one of these other clandestine foreign policy think tanks that surround the Davos folk. I think the reason that Margaret Thatcher, in her pant-shitting fucking dementia, stroke, dying days, said that Tony Blair was her greatest legacy is because he did successfully convince the entire fucking country, if not at least the entire media, that you can sell full-fat social and fiscal conservatism as some kind of socialism, some kind of amorphous progressivism. That without Tony Blair, there is no Barack Obama. Of that I am certain. Because he proved that you can dress things in a certain way. Because in actuality, what Tony Blair's fucking tenure was, Muslims getting rendered to CIA black sites in Poland and having teeth pulled out and piss thrown down their eyes and just constant bombing campaigns, murder. What they killed? At bare minimum, they killed 1 million people. At bare minimum. And they don't regret a second of it. I could list 1,000 different ways that Tony Blair is evil, like the shooting on the after 7/7 on the tube. A man was a Brazilian man. Jean-Charles de Menezes was a Brazilian man, a young Brazilian man, just walking to work, and Stockwell Station on the London Underground, they shot him to fucking bits because they'd mistakenly thought he was one of the people who did what we call 7/7 bombings on the London tube station. Now, the media and the Blair government quickly took to calling it 7/7. Why do you think? The contemporary accounts of 9/11 describe happening through the British lens, describe Tony Blair as like a fucking ecstatic puppy. Like he was just so happy because it meant he could really, really commit some military action. Before that, with Clinton, they were bombing Yugoslavia and, that didn't satiate his lust for blood. He wanted endless war, is what he wanted. And Tony Blair intermittently and through the back door introduced into Britain a Labour government, massive elements of privatisation in the National Health Service, in all public sectors, hence Thatcher later describing him as her greatest legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the brutality, the bloodthirst that defines him. It is the shamelessness that defines him. Tony Blair this year, I've seen him in, I think, 2 documentaries about the shooting at Stockwell Station. And he says he stands fully by what the police did. They shot this innocent man, based on no intel. Point blank range in the face over a dozen times, such that he had to be identified by the teeth, just based on nothing. And he would intermittently send out his blind, stupid, bastard fucking Home Secretary, David Blunkett, or Jack Straw, or David Miliband. David Miliband would later challenge with his brother for the Labour leadership against each other.
Yes, I remember that.
He was Foreign Secretary under Blair and had a very close relationship with the CIA. He was the black sites man. He was the guy doing the extraordinary renders. David Miliband expected himself to beat his hapless, very much Wallace and Gromitian brother Ed. Their father was a Marxist scholar, Ralph Miliband.
Why does this happen? Why does this happen? How do you get it? How do you go from having a Marxist? I mean, this is Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, like Kamala Harris,
Why?
Nandi, all of these people, they have Marxist scholar fathers, and then they end up being the analog of the Blairite.
Why? I don't understand.
I don't know why that is a phenomenon. David Miliband's father is buried in the same cemetery as Karl Marx. You would assume he's turning in his grave at some of the things that David Miliband is fucking doing. But David Miliband has always been... It's weird. If things had gone the other way in 2016 and you'd have elected Hillary, he would have got a job in the Clinton administration. I've seen that written many a time. In the WikiLeaks cables, Hillary's constantly describing how handsome he is and whatever else. Same with Peter Mandelson now being US ambassador. If Kamala had have won, it would have been David Miliband. So he has just been on the benches for a while, but he would intermittently, Tony Blair, utilize Jack Straw, David Blunkett, who's blind, and David Miliband to go out and stir up Islamophobia. You can watch it, you can read it, you can look at the statistics. They would go out and needlessly cause a stir and say, I think we should ban the burkini, which is some kind of
bathing suit for practicing Muslims. Yeah,
bathing suit for Muslim women or something, and they would turn it into a debate. I mean, like, you have to understand, this country, the average citizen is as bloodthirsty as Blair. In the famous clip where Tony Blair is asked, I believe on Channel 5, in a forum, sort of like a town hall forum, how do you sleep at night? The question that precedes that is, when are you going to invade Zimbabwe?
What was Zimbabwe doing?
In the middle of fucking Iraq and Afghanistan. It's like, how many wars do you want?
Is that like some Zulu leftover?
I mean, does the average Brit want to be at war with everyone all times? It's like Paul Mason last fucking year suggesting that Britain launch and that Britain officially go to war with at the same time with China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Something he dubs crink. Which always made me laugh. But to Blair's bloodthirst, he left office a extremely long-serving prime minister. I think 10 or 11 years on the dot, almost. And for Gordon Brown, he left him a bag of shit, just ruined. Gordon Brown lost an election because he had an interaction with a woman in the street who was saying, why aren't we getting rid of why can't white people kill all the blacks? something like that. And he left his lapel mic on in the car. And he said, I don't know, some bigoted woman.
You can't say anything about the immigrants because you're saying that you're but all these Eastern Europeans what are coming in, where are they flocking from?
It's been very good to meet you. It's been very good to meet you.
Yeah.
And you're wearing the right colour today.
It looked as if the two had parted on good terms, but Mr. Brown was still wearing the microphone that Labour had requested Sky News attached to his lapel.
Everything. She's just a sort of bigoted woman.
And he had to go around and apologise
For saying bigoted.
For calling her bigoted. And she refused to accept his apology, and he lost an election, and we got 15 years of Tory austerity off the back of that. Tony Blair didn't leave office on the greatest of terms with the British public. And that is because, although the banners were certainly produced and strewn, the mission wasn't accomplished. The forever war rages on. And since he left office, his son grew up a bit and profited massively off.
What's his son's name?
Ewan, I think. Ewan Blair. In 2010, Nick Clegg ran. Nick Clegg was at one point more popular than Winston Churchill. He discovered, because Britain had just invented over here the TV debate for the first time we had. Many, many moons after you. And what Nick Clegg discovered is that if you look down the camera, you let the person to your left make their argument, you let the person to your right make the argument, and then you look in the eyes of the audience and you say, there is another way. Then you can get a lot of fucking morons to vote for you. Such that it created a coalition government, the first in however many years, probably close to a century. Bollocks, what I just said. I think there was a war coalition during the Second World War, a rainbow coalition of sorts, where all the parties governed together. But he campaigned on abolishing tuition fees for universities, right? Then he got in and immediately they tripled tuition fees as Deputy Prime Minister, did Nick Clegg. All of these things constantly, it's like they fall on their own sword and then they step back, as Tony Blair did, to the Tony Blair Global Institute for Change, as Nick Clegg did to fucking vice president of Facebook, to the private sector, where they make their egg, where they get paid, as Rishi Sunak just did, went back to JP Morgan, I think.
Where Tony Blair was also getting, I think, what, $2 million a year?
Yes. Yeah. They get their nut, but no one had got the nut like the son of Tony Blair, Ewan Blair, because when Nick Clegg and David Cameron tripled tuition fees, he created a bullshit company, completely fake bullshit company that pushed apprenticeships via AI, and it was the beginning of this boom. And suddenly Tony Blair's son is worth nearly £1 billion because in lieu of going to university because they can't afford the £30,000 of debt, everyone, certainly from working class, deindustrialised northern towns, was getting an apprenticeship, a craft. Tony Blair's son was there to gobble up all the excess. The family is now minted beyond all their wildest dreams. My favourite video ever of Tony Blair is those nutters in America. They managed to get into one of these events and they ask him, they say, have you ever been to the Bilderberg group? And Tony Blair, the stupid bastard, man, he goes, oh, the Bilderberg group? Yeah, it was great fun, It's just like, and then he kind of realizes what he's just said, and he goes, yeah. And it is so uncomfortable. You will have to find it and clip it. I'll send you it. It is unthinkable. In the last 5 to 10 years, I suppose, what is it now? 2026. In the first Michael Wolff book about the Trump administration, I think it's called Fire and Fury, was it not?
Yes.
Michael Wolff, a lot of things he says is often reduced or discarded as tittle-tattle. I read this and I knew it as a surety. That Tony Blair was sitting his arse down in the White House waiting for a job and begging Jared Kushner specifically to make him some kind of envoy for peace in the Middle East. I think he wanted to be some kind of arbiter of the Abraham Accords. Obviously, complete bullshit arrangement, fake achievement of the Trump administration. One, which was then trumpeted by the Biden administration or expanded to include more countries. It's just a massive humiliation. It's just this completely fake arrangement between these countries. But never in my wildest dreams. Never in Tony Blair's wildest dreams. He wanted to be like a Middle East envoy, peace envoy. He wanted his legacy to be that we dropped some bombs, we killed some folks, but ultimately we built something. And what he is evidently going to get now is to be the monarch of the ruins of Gaza. A place where systemically children have been holocausted. And I say the word holocausted. I make sure to say the word holocausted every single time because I don't know that we'll ever know the true number, especially now that Tony Blair is in that post. I'm sure he will do everything in his power to whitewash the truth, but we have never had this advanced technology deployed at this speed, at this rate. In the age of AI, which people love to brush away as, these ugly images on the internet, but that's not what that is. Large language models will rapidly see advancements in medicine, but it will also rapidly see advancements in military warfare. A machine is uncaring. A machine doesn't care how many civilians it kills. A machine cannot feel. A machine does not care.
So Tony Blair is a machine.
Tony Blair is a machine, but the children of Gaza, the people of Gaza, whose bodies lay under that rubble, who were killed by all of these fucking AI, these AI programs that were developed in tandem with the IDF, like Lavender, like the Gospel, which, what a sickening name that is for these deliberate, this software that is willing to kill 70 civilians for a 40% chance that they might hit a, quote, Hamas militant or whatever. I don't think we'll ever know the true scale and scope of what has happened there now that Tony Blair has been installed to paint the walls white, to erase from history all the corpses, to do what he wished he had the power to do with Iraq, with Afghanistan. I don't think we'll ever know. But I know we'll get a fucking Trump hotel. I know we'll get a Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. And I know he'll get a new title on his Wikipedia. And I know to the simpletons, maybe first Viceroy of Gaza Riviera sounds pretty nice.
No, I've already seen the what is it, the Elon Musk smart manufacturing zone that he's promising, and the Mohammed bin Salman ring or whatever the fuck.
It's all the same bullshit technology that they want to build inside the mountains in Saudi Arabia or the fucking clouds or the it sincerely upsets me. Like it.
Yeah. No,
it's heartbreaking. These are fucking children who will be effectively just erased, having never lived at all. Their entire families destroyed. Their entire lineage, full stop. That is a lineage, full stopped. And you are putting in the hands of one of history's gravest mass murderers the task of tallying up the dead. Who wants this? Who wants this? And I know it would be the exact same under fucking Biden or whoever else. I don't fucking care. I just know that there can't be. I won't live in a world where the majority of people want this. And it is a stain on our collective fucking moral character. It is a beacon of our cowardice that no one has done things that I can't suggest on this podcast. But people like Tony Blair, fucking Elon Musk and Mohammed bin Salman and all of you people, dear God, I hope there's a hell. And dear God, I hope it's cold down. Because what you have done is history's greatest evil. And I don't mean that in the way that is constantly spat in my face, that I am diminishing the Holocaust against Jews and Gypsy Romani and disabled people and gay people by the Nazi German Third Reich. I find that appalling. I find that as appalling as you do. They did not have the technology that we have. They did not have the access to information that we have. The populace was not as informed as we are. And we have done nothing. And we should all sit in fucking shame.
And the Nazis lost. And they were killed in mass by the Soviets and by the partisans. Yep. The Israelis, it feels worse to me. It feels worse because I guess there's a happy ending to the Jewish Holocaust. You know, there isn't.
25 million dead Soviets is still even.
Yeah.
You think about that number, but like, for me, there is something so sadistic about this, about the intersection of technology and tech companies and fucking the AI boom and NGOs and these vultures just fucking circling the corpse of this place. They have utterly turned to rubble. Open a newspaper, Google the words fucking Gaza, the corridor to the birthplace of Christ, and it is all concrete. Just concrete rubble. And what the fuck do you think is under there? There used to be 2.2 million people. And that's what sickens me. That's why I get upset, and that's why I say naughty things on the internet. Because when I have to listen to people fucking complain about their fucking stupid hurt feelings, while the corpses of children pile high in the streets, just fuck off. Just fuck off. If you don't live there, you have nothing to complain about. I'm as guilty as sin for thinking that woe is me, my life is so hard. And I'm as guilty as sin for inaction. Because I and you and presumably anyone listening to this all know what someone should have done to somebody at some point.
I'm constantly appalled. I mean, and it's just insult upon insult upon insult upon insult, and if there's never some. There has to be something. There has to be some sort of truth and reconciliation. And I think, at least at the bare minimum...
That's my biggest fear, is a Blair-run truth and conciliation.
That's like worse than a fucking Warren Commission. I mean, like, it should be unacceptable, you know, in any face of this. And so...
And
what would it look like?
It scares me that Tony Blair's profile is now distant enough for the American populace that he could be seen as a neutral arbiter.
Have you seen the way people are talking about him? Did you see them? They had fucking Ehud Barak talking about the great moral character of Tony Blair.
In fact, the mentioning of Tony Blair is very well fit into this role because he knows the place, he knows the people, he knows the nuances of how to establish some compromise without insulting or humiliating any side. And he has a lot of experience from the quartet and for his term as the prime minister. He could be a good, very good kind of agent to help it happening.
He's Witkoff before this, even prior to this. Witkoff on their task team had Tony Blair and Alan Dershowitz together to talk about what to do with Gaza after the war, after the genocide. It's just, how can people just not be so insulted beyond, like, yes, it makes you want to go fucking crazy.
How can you not just be sickened?
I am. It's just it's a constant.
And I there used to be, during the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, there used to be a funny little website where people would donate and there was a bounty to try citizen arrest Tony Blair. Every time he spoke somewhere, you would get paid a bounty if you tried to perform a citizen's arrest on him. And as long as I am breathing in air, I wish to see the trial to Tony Blair.
If ever I could make one wish, I wouldn't wish for a Hollywood mansion. No fancy cars and no penthouse suites. No stash of cash on a private island. But as long as I am breathing in air, I wish to see the trial of Tony Blair.
I really can't emphasize enough to Americans. You think Bush was bad, at least there were other people to spread the blame amongst. Blair leapt at the opportunity to exacerbate at every single point of Iraq and Afghanistan, and he has leapt at the opportunity to exacerbate here. And what he is going to do is erase from existence a collective thousands of years lived on this planet. Expunged from the records. Tipexed out. Clean. And it wouldn't surprise me if they come back and say 40,000. Like thick as pig shit.
It's scary. It's scary considering that the Tony Blair Institute has taken $250 million from Larry Ellison from Oracle, and so now Oracle's got its grubby little fucking fingers in the Gaza Riviera.
Oracle, by the way, which is explicitly a CIA organization, and doubtless 100% was involved in the creation of the gospel and lavender. These systems that killed them so that they could create casinos and fucking shisha bars and a fucking entertainment suplex.
Can you imagine having a good time in Gaza after this? Can you imagine going there? Like, if you fucking win, like at the casino where there was a Holocaust, do you like the kind of fucking evil energy that carries with it is just unbelievable to me.
I know a guy who taught the British curriculum in Qatar for a while. That's just Qatar, just a vassal. Too much for him.
What do you mean?
It's a fake world. It's a fake world built on mass slave labor, and eventually that weighs you down morally. Mm-hmm. Eventually, even the most ill-informed, misinformed, politically ignorant person can see in front of them, how did we get here? And once you start picking at that scab, there is an awful lot of pus. Inexplicable to me. But I can only assume, as I believe others have said, that the ceasefire doesn't hold, which is...
That's like a thing to hope for almost? Like just not let them have it, or what?
What are the options here? Just death, 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 death. It's like they're putting a gun to your head and saying, we will continue to starve all of these children to death unless you let us make a fake country where Tony Blair is the king. I understand there is no coherence of the MAGA movement. I understand there is no coherence of American conservatism post fucking 19
ever, really. I mean, but
yeah. But Democrats and Republicans, what the fuck is wrong with you fucking sick? I lack the words to describe how utterly repugnant these people are, these party apparatniks or these party loyalists. Anyone who supports any political project that does not state explicitly, point fucking blank, that it is an anti-Zionist, anti-Israel party that needs to see Israel's spine broken into 1,000 pieces, and for every last fucking Israeli to be expelled from that land at the bare minimum, so that we can find the fucking children that they've killed, so that those children can be afforded the basic fucking dignity of a funeral or a recognition that once was a life and now there is not. And I'm sorry to be so dour. You listen to a podcast, you want to have fun. But I hope Tony Blair, think of the worst thing that could happen to any human, any living entity, any fucking organism. Imagine a hell as warm or cold as you want, as fiery an abyss or glacial a lake. I want him in it now. And maybe they'll kick down my fucking front door for saying that. I don't care anymore. I really, really don't. This is not a fucking uncommon position. This is the only moral position. This man is a fucking Grim Reaper. He is Kissinger times 1,000. And I have to hope, or I won't fucking wake up tomorrow, that one day these people will get their comeuppance. And for some reason, maybe I'm broken. I think that they will.
I have to believe they will. In this life or the next, I have to believe it. I mean, I like to imagine that when you die, when you've been an evil person, I think at some point you live every single life that was ever lived.
Yes.
And I hope that Tony Blair is stuck in a cycle of living every single life of every single Gazan again and again and again and again, knowing that he is not that child, knowing that he is not that person, that he is other than it, but he has to feel everything they feel for eternity. I think that to me is the only viable punishment. You can't be punished mortally here. There's no mortal punishment that suits it.
I'll give the audience an idea of the kind of evil that Tony Blair is. My dad was in the British Army. Not during Iraq, not during Afghanistan. During the years when it was a big racist holiday. And since the 1970s at the very least, much like in the film Dark Waters, they have used a carcinogenic chain of chemicals, hexavalent chromium, in the coating of the tanks. My father was a tank engineer. My dad wore the uniform of this country and swore allegiance to its crown. He died, or spent his last few days alive, on the phone to the Department of Welfare and Benefits to try and get the couple £100 that they owed him. Bureaucratically denied. It's not even that they lionize the people that they send to go do the massacres. They poison them. They kill them. They banish them to homelessness, to alcoholism, And I'm not asking you to feel sorry for any troop. I am just saying that this is an agent of chaos, an agent of misery, an agent of suffering in every possible regard. It doesn't matter whether you are loyal or not. You're not saving yourself by being loyal, because he would gladly watch your throat get slit too. And I imagine that if my dad were alive, he would find a lot of what I say about the British military and the British state to be abhorrent. That's a contradiction I live with. It is nothing in compared to the right here, right now, psychological, physical, emotional, name an adjective, suffering of one of the densest populations on earth, in the corridor to the birthplace of Christ, one of the youngest populations on earth, on whom the most advanced military technology the world has ever known has been let loose with zero limit. Think of the highest number you can and double it. Or at the very least, if there were 2.2 million people there before, there's not 2.2 million people there now.
I suggested a number over 700,000, and people scoffed
I
at
would
that
agree.
as though it was ridiculous. It's more than that. It's more than that.
Ralph Nader some months ago was saying 500,000, and I agreed then, and I think I would probably... I think the intensification of the famine specifically of the last 2 months, I would not be surprised to hear the word million.
I would not either. And if it's not a million now, it'll be a million very soon, just because of the irreparable physical and emotional costs of having to live through this for over 2 fucking years. It's so unimaginable. And it's just been happening every day.
You've ruined these people's lives, their families, their lineages, their futures, their hopes, their dreams, their relationships, their loves, their losses. You have stolen it all from them. The next time you hear a fucking baby cry, imagine that times 600,000 on repeat all day, every day. And that's what your tax dollars or pounds have done.
Yeah, we bought it.
Through Elbit systems, through BEA systems, through fucking Palantir, through fucking Oracle, Microsoft.
I don't just want to indulge in just the obvious horrors of it, because I was saying this recently, that it would be a disservice to the Palestinians that the world has changed irreparably. There is no going back from here. The direction the world heads in is still undecided. And I believe that if we either forget the Palestinians and their suffering, they suffer all over again. It's for nothing. I truly believe that through the Palestinian suffering, there can be salvation, that they have sacrificed themselves. They didn't ask for it, but they were chosen to be a sacrifice. And it's up to the rest of us now, or we let them down entirely with the whole world down, if we don't do something about that for them.
If we don't stop the fucking existence of this techno future hell they are building on their corpses. If we don't at least afford them the right to determine their own fucking future from here.
At the bare minimum, you'd think, right? But I have to believe,
that is
and this
achievable.
is like, it has to be. It has to. I can't go on imagining that the world will be like this. It's not acceptable. And so if we do not use this, if it does not motivate us to do something grand, something very serious to change everything, then I think that is the most disrespectful thing we can do to the sacrifice and suffering of Palestinians. And that means, like, you cannot give in. You cannot give up to this machine. Do not roll
Never.
over. Do not. You cannot. You
You know,
cannot.
I've got fucking nothing to my name. You know, I have that big fancy Patreon. I haven't even broke even. I won't break even for months. I literally have nothing. I sell items so that I can, on eBay, so that I can send money to GoFundMe's, to Chuffs.orgs. These people telling you they're fake are lying to you. The percentage of fake fundraisers is so trivial. It is so unbelievably easy to verify these things. Usually there is some kind of conduit in the US or in the UK who has met the family, who is liaising in some way through a Jordanian bank or whatever else. Give them your money. Now. Because you don't need the things you think you need. And they just want to feed their children for another night. I don't want to just end on endless doomerism. I have to believe there is this crack, this ray somewhere in this that. But even what the scope of what I am allowed to say, I have well exceeded tonight, and I've done that willingly. I sincerely do not care. I'm aware that the police subscribe to my Patreon now.
Really?
Well, the counter-terror police raided one of my old co-hosts.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
3 weeks ago.
What happened?
They seized all of his devices and charged him for supporting a prescribed terror organization, Palestine Action. I'll fucking scream it from the rooftops. I support Palestine Action until the day I die. You can't take that from me.
Where is he now?
Bail.
And probably under this is the other thing that scares me is, like, as all of our financial systems go through these Zionist entities like Stripe.
Yep.
That you won't be able to buy anything. Like, they won't. You can't even, like, if you live in a cashless society.
It's impossible to do any kind of e-commerce without just supporting. And porn. Don't fucking get me started. The fucking Pornhub rabbi or OnlyFans donating directly to the IDF, but mitzvah Owen Jones.
Hold on. The OnlyFans donated to what?
The owner of OnlyFans donated directly to the IDF.
Yes, to the IDF. But how does that have to do with Owen Jones' bat mitzvah?
Owen Jones attended a quote-unquote, what he called non-political queer Jewish night. All of its creators are Israeli. All of them say that their existence is political. And it was formally hosted at a venue where, after October 7th, the owner shut down every single restaurant he owns so that he could serve 15,000 meals a day to the IDF on the front lines of the Holocaust they committed over the succeeding few years.
Yeah, buffet at the Holocaust, right?
It's impossible to even send money to someone without engaging with this amorphous and endless entity. And I am so fucking far past the idea of semantics, of having to play word games and be polite and talk nicely about this. No, I am not referring to every Jew that has ever existed. But Jewish people, you have not done enough. The reformist synagogues, you should be fucking ashamed of yourselves. You should be suicidally ashamed of yourselves. Because there was a chance. There was a chance after October 7th. There were people. Look up Gerald Kaufman, British fucking Labour MP. He had at the time, he gave a speech in Parliament to absolutely nobody, but it doesn't matter. You should play it. He knew every Israeli prime minister since its inception. And in 2009, he said they were speaking the words of Nazis. It's possible to be an adherent of the Jewish faith and to not believe that there should be a arbitrarily selected Jewish ethno-state on stolen land built on a fucking fortress of corpses.
Zionism is itself antithetical to Judaism. I mean, it's the fact that Zionism has subsumed so much of the Jewish understanding of itself is, I'll give Hasbara some credit there. Otherwise, they're shit at their fucking propaganda. And that's what's also so frustrating is like, it's so bad. It's such a bad.
They burn the Star of David into Palestinian children. Your religion has been ruined and you let that happen.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine how we as Jews can come back.
How does Judaism survive this?
How does Judaism survive this?
The one
I don't know.
Fucking image. All of the sacred iconography of your fucking belief system has been perverted into Nazism on steroids. Nazism with the most well-equipped conceivable army with limitless resource, limitless money, limitless influence.
They turned one of our great books into a world Holocaust program. The Samson option. They took one of our great stories and have turned it into the Annihilator, like a literal human Holocaust. It is a great shame. And as someone who used to identify as a Jew, who used to feel Jewish, it's really hard for me to even feel that way at all anymore.
And that in itself is an atrocity. Thousands of years. This state has existed for a handful of decades. And look at the damage it has done.
And I want to emphasize too, because you and I were talking on this earlier, that it's like, it's very hip, very trendy right now to blame Jews and Israelis even for everything. I mean, that Tucker Carlson 9/11 documentary, he's trying to absolve the CIA and say, actually, it was just Israel that did 9/11. And don't look at the rest of it. Don't look at the rest of the machine and the drivers behind it.
Yes, and obviously it was Israel and Saudi Arabia and
the United States
in tandem with the CIA and all. Yeah. This is a nexus.
Israel is a node.
Yes.
Israel is a node.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
And
yeah, it's funny to say Zog because it's a funny sounding word. And yeah, my government at the very least and yours is occupied by Zionists. but it is symbiotic.
Zionism is bigger than this, like the state of Israel itself. The logic, the ideology of Zionism is something like it's beyond fascist. It's something else that's even more terrifying. It has nothing to do with Jewishness. Zionism has nothing to do with Jewishness. And the fact that they've so closely tied it to this thing, this like history, this culture, has ruined it, quite possibly forever.
And what do you think they've learned from that? They've learned that they can do horrendous things so long as they tie it to an ancient belief system. So if you are an adherent of any other religion,
you're next, basically. They're going to do the same thing. They'll do the same thing. Once they bleed dry this Jewish identity, this Jewish sense of self, it will turn into something else and something even more horrifying, I think. And I think that's the thing that's so disappointing to me as someone who I loved Jewishness because I thought it was because Jews had suffered that we knew better somehow, that there was some sort of understanding we had and this sense of justice. And I realized that was bullshit.
And that's why I mentioned Gerald Kaufman specifically, because that is the strand. That's the man that I wish was running this country. He's not even alive anymore. I think he passed in the early 2010s. But it's like, that is the man who learned those lessons, who could see that suffering is universal, that the Holocaust wasn't, that the Holocaust targeted Jews almost completely arbitrarily. It could have been anyone had X or Y migration route changed 100 years prior. You know? If the demographic makeup of Germany had been mildly different, fascism or whatever this is, because to me, in my mind, this is, fascism doesn't cut it. Nazism doesn't cut it. It's the word Holocaust wasn't invented until decades afterwards. We will acquire the nomenclature in the aftermath.
I have to believe that we will also acquire, if this doesn't change people, and if good people who can't change the world don't arise from these ashes, then I will give up, I think. If there aren't people who have lived through this, even just through witnessing it through their fucking telephone or cell phone, that if this doesn't change people radically into the right direction, then all hope might be lost. But I have to believe that this great sacrifice that was not, they didn't ask for it, but that something good has to come of this, or else it's not worth this.
I have to believe that we fucked it, but the children, that the children can somehow see different. Because you watch these fucking pensioners or these fucking middle-aged people or these fucking, millennials, even the elder Zoomers, scrolling through just clips of Family Guy and then Holocaust. And then Peter Griffin in Fortnite and then Holocaust. And then Hawk Tour and then Holocaust. And what does that do to the human psyche en masse? What does that do to a global population? I have to believe that the young learn the right lessons from this.
There was one anecdote of hope that I from Palestine. When people ask me where does hope come from, and I see it in the Palestinian people themselves, because they could have turned against each other. I mean, in great moments of horror, people become.
And Israel tried very, very hard to make that happen.
And there's this one French historian who went to Gaza and witnessed it himself firsthand. And one of the things that struck him, and to me is one of the great symbols of hope I've ever heard in my life, is that he talked about just these starving children everywhere, and what meager rations they were giving, they were sharing with cats.
I saw just the other day, Will Menaker shared with me, I want to find his name, Amiad, engineer. His daughter is sick, his foot is broken, and he's digging wells with sticks for other people to go to the bathroom. That's the only thing that gives me hope in this world. And, I'm Eyup Lovely. I talk daft bollocks on the internet. You go on my profile, you can click on my pinned tweet, you can find an array of people that you can give money to. I've spoken to all of them. One of them, Allah 14, when this started, he's just a fucking kid. Carrying on his back, not a shoe on his fucking foot, just a tent, running away from bonfire, fucking trying to bury family members, trying to keep it together. And if they can do that, then we can do a lot more.
And I think to give up hope, to feel doomed about this is disrespectful to Palestinians. Like, who are you to be fucking depressed about anything? And look at what they're going through. So that's a waste. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.
We are both sorry that this is so intensely depressing. It's just
yeah.
The truth is depressing. I could get my front door kicked in tomorrow for saying this, and I don't care anymore. I really don't. And you shouldn't either. Stop biting your tongue. Leave your house. Give your money. Sell your things. Do something material. It's time to move away from pixels and petitions, because there's only so far that can take us. But other than that, it's been a lovely chat. And it's been nice to talk.
Yeah, no, it has.
I'm sorry that the world is the way it is for so many people. I'm sorry. I try desperately to get through the messages I get from anyone over there to try and help. I'm trying. I need to do more, and so does any person listening to this.
It's never enough either. You can never do enough.
It's never enough.
Never.
It's never enough.
But don't let that paralyze you into doing nothing either. I think that's the hard part, right? It's so hard to know where to even begin. And I think, like you said, you can begin by just if you have some money, give it away. Like, that's the bare minimum you can do, is just give away.
And these are the central tenets of every Abrahamic religion.
Yeah, you're supposed to take care of strangers. That's pretty explicit.
Yeah.
Throughout all the texts, you're supposed to care for strangers.
And I fear that the pixels tell you not to sometimes. As I say, I'm as guilty as sin. For all of that, I'm as guilty as sin. I am nothing if not a hypocrite. But what Isaac said is 100% correct. Do not get paralyzed into inaction. Every single thing. If you can throw a piece of copper their way, it still helps. And you need to tell all of your friends and all of your family who are not paying attention to this, you need to tell them now that it's the Holocaust.
And that it's not over either. That
And
just
that
because
it's
some
not
fucking
over. No matter what fucking politician tells you. Doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, Mark Carney, Emmanuel Macron,
Bernie Sanders. I don't fucking
Bernie fucking Sanders.
None of them. None of them. It's not over.
It will never be over until we give those people their futures back, or what remains of that people.
Hello, friend. Did you make it all the way to the end? I'm impressed if you did. Re-listening to this and editing it, I worried it was indulgent in a strange way, indulgent in our own emotions. I'm very curious. Tell me how this made you feel, and I'm open to criticisms. And now, if you really want to have a more fun time, part 2 will be out the following day. And if you've made it this far and you're not a paying member and you want to listen to it, you've earned it. Just message me. I will send you a free link to the Eyup Lovely paywalled episode. And if you would mind, just donate a little bit, whatever you can. If you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. But just if you can't give $5 to me, give $5 to Palestine. Okay? Thanks.